This is the Sisterhood Society podcast, where three sisters talk life, food, fashion, kids, and everything in between. Become part of our sisterhood where everyone is welcome at our table. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Sisterhood Society podcast. We're so excited to dive into kind of like a hot buzzword topic today, which is work-life balance. Again, this was something that the Sisterhood suggested for us to tackle. So that's today's topic, but we're going to start like we always do with what's good in the sisterhood. So Tara, would you like to go first?
Sure. We hosted Friday night and had some friends over, which I was super stressed about because I didn't think I was going to get it all done, but we haven't hosted people in forever. So that was super fun. And the next night I had dinner with one of my friends. And I was up till like it was like 11 o'clock or midnight both nights. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not used to that late night schedule. I was literally like on Sunday. So
this might not seem like a big deal, but I got all the kids ready and myself ready for church on our own and got them there a half an hour early.
Oh,
wow.
We went and we were like, wow, we have enough time to get donuts, but they were out of donuts. So then the kids had to just like stick with chocolate milk. I'm like, wow. But yeah, so we got to church a half an hour early and
did they go into Sunday school?
No.
None of them?
None of them.
Okay.
I didn't try. Actually, Isaac was leading in the junior high, so we got to like sit and listen to him lead worship there. And then I walked around with them until they were done preaching. But yeah, I feel like that was a very successful Sunday. Yep.
That's impressive.
It is.
I didn't get to hear about that yesterday because we don't talk to Whitney on Sundays.
Work-life balance.
Okay, so my weekend was actually like jam-packed, and normally we try to leave like one day where we do nothing, but we just had a lot of plans this weekend. So Friday I went to a writer's round, which if you guys are not from Nashville, it's probably irrelevant to anybody, but it's where writers get together and they sing songs that they've written for other artists or things that they're like on the docket, possibly artists could be cutting. And that was really fun because it was a bunch of our friends. Saturday night, my mom's birthday is actually, or our mom, I don't know why I said my mom, our mom's birthday is today, but she wanted to go out to dinner and celebrate it. So my dad went on a last minute golfing trip and he was like, okay, well, take Kate and Phil and like one of Kate's friends that my mom's really close with and her husband, Sky and Blaine. And he's like, I'll leave my credit card and you guys can go out to like a really nice restaurant. So on our anniversary in New York this past year, when Phil was on tour, I met up with them in New York City, and they had just opened this like awesome steak place in Soho, which is like, I think it's South Manhattan, and it's right on the water. Like it's on the Hudson River in the harbor. And it was like so vibey. There was this gargonzola steak that Phil has been talking about literally for like 6 months. And all week we'd be getting ready for bed, and Phil would be like, I can't wait for Saturday when I get to have that gargonzola steak. So we went when we were there in New York, they were like, oh my gosh, y'all are from Nashville. We're opening one in Nashville next month. Like you should come see us in the spring. So anyways, I suggested that to my mom. So if you guys are in Nashville and you want like a nicer, like bougier dinner, it's called Carne Mare and Carne Mare. Yeah. And it's in the Gulch, which is like I don't know, like the ritzier part of downtown, if you will. And like Nashville's new thing is like hotels have to compete by putting like a really cool restaurant in the main level of their hotel. So this is in the W that just opened. Do you guys remember in the Gulch where Urban Outfitters is?
Mm-hmm.
It's across the street from that. So anyways, I get asked for Nashville recommendations like 6 times a week. So I'm always trying to like add to my list to make sure. And my mom's like, we could try a new restaurant every weekend if we wanted to. Like it's kind of hard to keep up with because they're opening 24/7.
In Dad's defense, he didn't realize he was going to gone over the dinner.
Yeah, he didn't
He
realize.
Is back in time for her birthday today, actually.
Yeah, he's in town today, but he was like, since I'm gone, you guys should go out and like treat yourself. So it was really sweet. We all like sent my dad a picture and sent him this text because I was like, I sent him this really long text and I was like, that was like one of the most like amazing experiences I've had in a really long time. Like it was just such a sweet time with our friends and like to celebrate my mom, and obviously we got to like order such amazing food and wine. And I was like, that was just such a treat. Like I left smiling like ear to ear. Like it was just really like fun and special to be able to do it together.
No
So
dog hero stories this week?
no what?
Dog hero stories?
You said dog hair stories. No dog heroes. Yeah, I was sick last week, so I finally got to go on a walk yesterday. The weather was like gorgeous this weekend here too, which always puts me in a great mood. Okay, so we're going to dive right into this topic, and I've prepped some questions for the girls and I to answer. So if you guys don't know what we do, we own a online clothing company called Royal and Reese. Like if this is the first time you're listening to the podcast or you're not familiar with our business. And we started the business, it's almost 7 years ago.
Yeah, May 2nd.
May 2nd. Wow, that is crazy. So in the 7 years that we've been in business, we've kind of been through everything under the sun, and there's definitely been some high highs and some low lows. So we wanted to talk about something I feel like we haven't perfected, but we've really tried to change since the pandemic, which is work-life balance. So I thought it would be interesting to start off with the question of what does a typical day look like for you in hours wise?
You want to go ahead? I usually always start answering some.
A typical day here, I come in and usually I'll do my makeup or wait to be told whether we're doing a makeup video. And then here lately, Bree's been pulling the items for me that need to be shot that day, and she'll steam them for me. I go through and just double check and make sure we have all the colors that we need, and make sure I'm not missing anything. If anything did get like switched, I make sure that we've got it pulled and steamed and ready to go. I go through and pick and choose which ones we need like angles of instead of just like a color shot. Then we kind of do meetings typically in the morning. So we'll do like team meetings or ad meetings or promo meetings, that kind of thing. Once we're done with those, then we go and shoot the items back and forth. Tara and I, we make sure to do like selfie videos too, so we can show like the fit of different things, how it flows when we move, different colors that it comes in. I come back and I download the photos, then I get them edited and up onto our Pixie Set gallery so that our web manager can go ahead and load them into each listing. Once that's done, I usually am pretty free from there to do like videos or content or reels. It just depends on what we have coming up, like if we've got a big collection dropping or if we have like different things that we need to spotlight. So
Or
that's
like
essentially my day.
Accessories, like you'll have to do like flat lay type of photos for
Mm-hmm.
those. You have to do sometimes extra photo content of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just depends. And then when I get like kind of free time, and I know that we've got like certain designs that need to be done, then I'll sit down and try to knock out some of like our merch. So like here coming up on April 18th, we are dropping our first.
April 20th. We keep saying they have to
Oh
be
yeah,
by the 18th.
it's true. But it's the 20th. April 20th is going to be our Story Society day, and I have made some like Story Society merch for that, which I'm really excited about. We need to order those today because I want to make sure we've got them. So I've been working on those, just kind of tidying up like my files, making sure I've got like the mock-ups looking okay and that we all end up liking the designs. So yeah, it just depends. My day kind of varies, but for the most part, there's always typically a photo shoot and photo editing to be done.
A lot of mine is similar to Wit's with the exception of the editing piece, but in between that, I usually try to get into the office between 8:30 and 9 if I don't have to wash my hair and curl it before I come in. Those days it can be a little bit later. But usually on my way in, I'm strategizing with Kate and Sarah, trying to figure out like what the flow of the day is going to be, and if we need a video or if we're going to be doing something specific through email is usually kind of what we're trying to figure out on the way in. So once I'm here, then I'm usually looking to make sure I have certain bills paid, and then like figuring out when we're doing photo shoot, if we're podcasting that day. And then Kate usually wants color photos for deal of the day items. And then the rest of it is just kind of like a free for all as far as if we have meetings with our marketing consultant or if we have like reels and things like that to do in the afternoon. So it kind of just depends. But I try to keep my day as free as I can just so that I can have time for content if it's needed. So yeah.
Yeah, my day is different depending on what it looks like, but my overall goal is to always make sure there's a flow of inventory coming in, so buying, and then like researching styles and having those prepped so that when we do have budget days to buy, that we have things like in the works. And then I launch new arrivals every morning at 9 with Sarah. So we tag people that ask for links. I don't know if people know this, but like when you ask us for a link, we do actually personally message each person that asks. So that's like takes up the first 30 minutes of my day. And then we usually get posts up on all the social media platforms of what product went live. And I usually have a good 25 DMs and messages to catch up on from the night before. A lot of my day is like interacting with customers. And then we have this really fun group chat on Facebook actually where we show sneak peeks. And it's kind of like this really fun group chat that feels like all of my best friends are in it because we all just like nerd out over product. So usually I'll show them what's coming, what I'm buying, like making sure all the socials know if we have like major restocks that happen and stuff like that. And then communicating with Libby, who's our Instagram manager, of like what should get posted in stories and stuff. We have a general overall feel of what we're going to do each day based on like the week calendar, but then we try to plan like on the daily what's getting posted if there is like restocks in the moment that have happened. So yeah, buying and sales, social media, talking to customers is kind of like my day. And then the afternoon, I have reluctantly made my husband a photographer to shoot content, which is going over mildly well and some days not so well. He's very gracious in like giving me 45 minutes a day, which is like a very huge chunk of like time to ask him to do that, but he's been very sweet about it, honestly. So he'll shoot pictures of me in the clothes that we're launching. So I'll style the outfits like more intentionally than just like a stock photo. So trying to show you guys like how to actually wear the pieces more than just like throwing on a slide sandal with it. And so I usually do like Instagram takeovers and stuff like that to show the product. And then again, posting that all over social media. But yeah, like the girls said, there's a lot of meetings. There's like this morning, we planned a very exciting promo that's coming out at the end of the month. We have a new collab with an influencer at the beginning of next month that just got pushed a little bit. So we're actually wrangling a lot of product and really cool collab pieces for her. And then we do sell makeup. So then like we squeeze in like makeup videos and unboxings. And if it sounds like a lot, it's because it is, because like people are probably listening to this and being like, oh my gosh. Every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm going in to tackle another day of all these things, but it's a lot of fun. Every day feels different, which I think is what makes it like go by really fast. Okay. So, are you satisfied with your current work-life hours?
I think the hours are fine. I think the thing that I struggle with is that I have a hard time shutting it off in the evening, like not thinking about it. I'm not necessarily sitting in front of a computer all the time, but I do feel like it's hard for me to shut off my brain to it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with my hours. I don't have an issue shutting it off because I'm not sitting, my job's mainly in front of my computer. And when I leave my computer here, I go home, I can't really do much. You guys on the other hand, like yours is probably more from your phone, but mine is mainly from my computer, like editing and designing and stuff like that. And when I get home, my kids demand so much of my attention or just being able to like be around them. It's a little bit different for me. So my hours, I feel like, are fine.
Yeah, I think that each job has a different set of like pressures and stresses that comes with it. And so like on the weekends, if the sales are like slow or rough, like, or something didn't go as well as I had planned it to be, I feel like I can feel panicked and feeling like but there's only so much I can do to change the tides. Does that make any sense? So like there's not a lot you can do to be like reactionary when sales don't go the way that you want them to. But I find myself feeling like sometimes like I'm leaning into anxiety about it when I know, like if I talk to Phil about it, he'll be like, you prepped the best way that you know how, and like you spent the hours doing it, and I work past 5 a lot of the time. So I just dropped my ring. So I feel like there's a lot of times where like I can feel nervous on the weekends, but I also don't know how I could make it better even if I put in a lot of extra time. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And I feel the same nervousness because you're tied to the sales end of it, making sure that those come in, and I'm tied to like paying the bill side of it. And so like if a weekend totally bombs and it's going to make us short for payroll, then that like puts a lot of pressure on me to figure out like, okay, now what are we going to do? Which then in turn puts a lot of pressure on you. So I feel like it's one of those things. I feel like that's where it's hard for me to shut off because I feel like I'm always thinking, because it's always tied to like what the sales are and what it's going to, what's the outcome of that going to, you know, the consequence of that.
And I honestly, like, that's been something I feel like that's been tough from the beginning, whether sales were like crazy high or low. Like, I think that that's the thing, is that like when you run a business, sales are always going to be a stressor, whether you're going for a really big goal or and like trying to push things really hard, or if you're just trying to survive. Like, I think that there's been seasons of both.
Yeah.
Um,
The pressure
and I
just
feel like,
changes depending on the season, right?
yeah,
Because at one point, you know, when you're the number of people that you have employed to has changed. And so the pressure, the level of pressure is different.
definitely. And I used to always think too, because I'm an achiever, like if the number was, you know, X, then I'd be like, oh, well, I know if I do this, that it will be, I can go over the goal, and then we would be more comfortable for the week. So I would push myself even harder to work extra. And the funny thing about social media being the way that it is now, like that used to matter. And now extra hours doesn't necessarily mean extra sales.
Yeah.
And so like you can put in the extra time and effort, but what really resonates better is just when we're planned and like have really solid promos in place, or really good product and really amazing content showing the product and connecting with people. That means more than trying to do something on the fly. So working late doesn't always necessarily mean I'm moving the needle more, which it used to, which is why I feel like I used to work a lot of extra hours.
Yeah.
So back in 2017, 2018, really from the beginning until basically the pandemic, and especially in the bigger years, 2017, 2018, 2019, I was working sun up, sundown. And the only time, like Whitney was saying, that I was away from work was really when I was like out away from my house, but I would still do stuff for my phone, like continually. And it almost became like an addiction. Like you couldn't, almost like you feel panicked, like if you don't respond to a text or a customer or something, that like that things won't still run without you. Like if I had a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, it was like I felt like I couldn't leave, you know what I mean? Whereas now I feel like that's been a little bit better with having balance, but it's still gritty because we have such a small team. Yeah. So it's kind of somewhere in the middle right now. I'm definitely not working nights and weekends the way I used to, but I definitely still work in the evenings and then a couple hours on the weekend.
Yeah. I think it's hard not to, especially like if I go grab lunch with a friend, which happens maybe once a month. It's like so rare that we even take lunches. But when I do that, I have this almost a little bit of a panicky feeling of how much is happening or questions that are getting asked of me like while I'm there, because I can feel like the text messages coming on my watch. And I don't want to be on my phone while I'm with them because I want to be present, but I will, like, I can come back to 100 text messages in the hour and a half that I'm gone or whatever. Right. And so that's hard for me too, because there's a piece of me that's OCD that wants to like clear the text messages out and make sure that I've like gone through all of them. I hate having notifications. And so it's hard for me even in a vacation setting to like fully relax. Like there is a piece of it that I feel like is almost like when they say people are smokers and they have like the hand to mouth like piece, I feel like it's like something of having something in my hands. Like it's hard for me to just like sit still and like fully relax. Like I'm almost more relaxed if I'm in the loop than if I'm out of the loop.
You should start reading.
Yeah, I will
I would
say
just sleep a lot more.
I will say reading has kind of helped allow me an escape a little bit into like a different world. So if I'm like really stressed, because I hold in my stress, I get overwhelmed, and then I just like I don't really do much with it. So to decompress, I'll read and kind of get an escape from whatever I'm stressed about.
And I was going to say too, like there's been moments, and I'll share this just because it's been so long ago. There's been moments where like my balance was so off that like my husband doesn't comment on anything like ever. And everything he's always like, that's great, you have to work extra, no problem. And like for years he never made a comment about me working extra, having my computer out when we watch TV together, or anything. Like honestly, he never, how much I was traveling to Bloomington. But I remember we were probably doing 3 times the volume from like a daily basis standpoint when me and Whitney were prepping to leave for San Diego. And we were at the office like every single day, and both of us had sinus infections, and it was holiday, and it was just so wild, and I was so sick. But I was like, all of our employees were off, and like the students had gone home for Christmas, and it was like me or bust, like we either like got the sales in or not. And this was like in 2017 going into 2018. And I just remember I got to San Diego and I worked the entire 4-hour flight off my phone, got there, worked until midnight. And I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, is this whole vacation going to be this? And I remember Phil took his hands and grabbed my face like this, and he turned my face towards me and he goes, Kate, you're scaring me. You have to slow down. And for Phil to say that is a lot. Like he would never, ever, ever say something like that to me unless like he could tell that it was like off, because my anxiety was like really high. And I just remember like crying and being like, oh my gosh, like I have to make an adjustment in my life, because I just like was working way too much to the
I
point
remember that trip because we drove over from Vegas, and I remember I invoiced the entire 4-hour drive from Vegas to San Diego, just like invoiced on my phone, and you and I went back and forth and we're like, okay, what do I post next? What do I post next?
Yeah.
And it was like super defeating, because like no matter what we did, we had to like get to a certain number just to like, I think, still lose for the month. I think that was the most defeating part of it, is that you were working towards a negative, just trying to make the negative go less.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was a bad month. But I just remember saying, I'm going to get us to December 31st, and then I'm going to check out for the rest of the vacation. And when I get back, I'll help get sales back. But like, I'm going to let the sales team take over. And you're like, okay. And that was like the first time I'd ever told you guys that I was going to like take a breather, I think. And it's
because in past vacations, you would work in the mornings, like especially if we're in California and we were 2 hours behind, you would work for like a couple hours and then come to the pool to get like sales on track. And then, then you would like,
I would get up at 6 a.m. and work until basically 10:30, which would have been like lunchtime here, and make sure that we'd hit goal before I would allow myself to do anything else. And I remember setting my alarm every morning for 5:45 and being like, this is so stupid that I'm like getting up this early on vacation. But it got better over time with salespeople as well. And like we had a social media team at the time that was helping us with the volume. And that helped me a little bit more. But then it went from me being the main salesperson to managing a really, really large team, which I really enjoyed. And it was really fun to like have a team to mentor, but it was just a different set of pressure, because it wasn't just me. I was like teaching a lot of people to be inside my brain, essentially, from like a sales perspective. So now it's kind of just me again. As far as like, I mean, you guys definitely help a lot with like live videos and creating content and stuff. But as far as like coming up with the strategy and pushing the number and posting on social media, majority of the time it is just like me, and I don't have like a team anymore post COVID. But I guess, what do you guys feel like was the main change for you where you felt like you were able to pick up work-life balance from like building this business like super crazy hard and those tough gritty years? Because there's definitely years where like it doesn't, as much as you would like to have a work-life balance, you're building a business, so you have to like put in the extra hours and work and stuff.
I don't know if it's fully switched besides the fact that we're not working till 8, 9 o'clock at night. You know, like I think before I would bring my computer home and I would like eat dinner and then I'd sit back down on the couch and like help post in the evenings or do something, you know, like whether it was helping you with inventory buying or something to just to try to get ahead for the next day. So that part of it has changed. But I don't know if I have fully hit my stride as far as being able to, when I can come home and I can fully invest in my kids all evening long, then I feel like I'll have hit it. But I think until that point, I'm not quite fully there yet. And I think that that's the hard part is some days I'm better about it than others. Like I said, I'm not sitting in front of my computer all night, but there's still the mental side of it that I'm always thinking about it. And I think that that's the part that I haven't figured out how to get better at shutting it off. So
I personally have to like compartmentalize because I get anxious really easily. So in order for me to be like not go crazy, and maybe it's because I experienced it after I had Riv through like depression and anxiety, I had to like mentally put up a boundary because I know what it's like when I get there and I'm a waste of a human. Like I just like it's like I have no motivation to do anything. I like can't get beyond it. So for me personally, I have to almost like mentally shut down once I get to work, or once I get home from work. I have to kind of mentally shut that down and just focus on my kids and focus on house or whatever. Um, read, do something that I know will kind of balance me back out. Because otherwise, I just go down this like spiral.
I was going to say, I think the main thing that, and me and Tara had a conversation about this a couple months ago when we were talking about work, and she had her computer in her hand, and I said, what are you really going to accomplish tonight from 5 to 10? Like, how much are you really going to move the needle tonight from your kitchen table? And I think, and she was like, well, I don't know, like, you know, and we just had this really honest conversation where we both were like, what would it really benefit from us working from 6 to 9 or 5 to 10 or whatever the evening hours are, where, like, of course there could be a few text exchanges to be like, hey, tomorrow let's remember to do this or something like that, but like physically sitting in front of a computer and trying to strategize extra hours when you've already been doing it for 8 hours, we're like, there's really not a lot you can control in the evening that would really move the needle enough that it would be worth wasting your whole evening to do. So I think that's kind of like, you know, there's definitely times where you can put in the extra, like if it's a promo day or we're prepping for a huge collab, and like, you know, when we've done Sharon Says So stuff, we were working extra to make sure it was like ready because it was these huge push days. But in the day out, it's hard. I definitely feel like it's hard to put it down, but it's necessary for you, like you're saying, for your mental health for the next day to be fresh. Because if you're never really giving yourself a break, then it does always feel like you're on this like rat race or like this wheel, like this hamster wheel where like you're never getting off. So for me, just giving up nights and weekends, and even then, like even in the evenings, I'm still posting sneak peeks. So I feel like I'm still taking up an hour and a half of my evening every night. But with the weekend stuff, like giving that up was at least like a release of some sort of separation. And I think it's important for our customers to see that too, because I think that they want the best version of who we can be if we have the ability to like have a break, you know what I mean? And I don't think that like anyone would want us to be working crazy hours just to for the sake of restocking or something. I don't even know. I'm trying to think of something I would do in the evenings. Like our customers, literally, we have the best community. And I've joked about this before, but there's been like times where they'll be like, I hate to return this because I don't want to return. And we're like, no, like you should be able to return something. You know what I mean? Like our customers, they want to do what's best for us, which is because there's like this massive personal connection between us and our community, and they really want what's best. So I don't think that they, you know, are looking for us to be working like crazy just for the sake of people buying clothes. But we're going to add something? You're just
No.
nothing? No, okay.
I thought you had another question.
I'm sorry, I do. Okay, how often do you work overtime?
I mean, I think it depends. I wouldn't say I, at this point, work tons of overtime. Kate and I were just talking about this the other day of like, if we have to leave early or if we have to come in late, then the reality is we really should be like making up our time, because it's hard to like get stuff done throughout the week if we're not here collectively,
Right.
40 hours. And so I feel like we've been like good about it and then not good about it. And I feel like it's harder since we've had kids and like their stuff is amped up, but it does make it difficult to like not be able to get in everything we could do, even if it's like an extra reel or picture or something. When when our schedules are off and we're not all able to like work a full 8 hours or whatever. I feel like I was really good about, if I was, like we were talking about, when I used to have my old babysitter, I had to leave by like 3:45 to get home at 4, but I would get up at like 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, because that's just like the natural time I wake up. And I would work from like 5 to 7 on my computer before kids got up, just so I could get like payroll knocked out or like reports I needed to run, so that I had that stuff out of the way before I got in. So that way, if I didn't get to the office till 9 or 9:30, I'd already put in a couple hours before I left the house. And so I feel like it just kind of depends. Like it's rare that we're really working a weekend. Like we came in on a Sunday night recently, but I mean, as far as most weeks, I'm not even sure we're putting in 40. So,
well, we never take breaks and we never take lunches. So I don't know. I feel like in the end, it all kind of evens out. But we come in every once in a while and do evening videos every once in a while. I feel like, yeah, we're just kind of doing what we can with the time that we've got.
I was going to say there's also been a shift since the pandemic, because before, when we had more employees, like it wouldn't have been as big of a deal to like miss a Friday or have to leave early for a doctor's appointment because you had way more coverage. But I don't know if a lot of other business owners feel this way, but like we're rebuilding right now. Like we just rehired a couple old employees that were with us before the pandemic, which has been such a gift to have them back. And going through major layoffs and stuff, it was just us for a while, like and so we were pulling orders, we were doing the inventory, like obviously the model thing, we're still the main like photos and models and content creators, which we used to have an entire team for. And so I feel like there used to be a little bit more leniency or like give in the schedule, where it didn't feel as big of a deal to leave for a doctor's appointment or like to pick up your kid. Whereas now it just feels a little grittier, because I feel like we're in this phase of we're like building back from what was taken from us during the pandemic. And I think a lot of businesses are in that season right now where there's so much good, but you're still like reaping the repercussions of all of the crazy things that our world has gone through, because there was going to be a bounce back period from what we've experienced from the last 2 years. So it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Like I feel like we could do a whole episode on like what we've learned from the pandemic, but I think the main thing that we really recognized was like we had to like go through every single process and every single like nitty-gritty detail of our business and be like, how to be more efficient with everything that we do, and like what efforts can we put in to get the highest X amount of result. And that has been really challenging, but it's also been like really life-giving to actually like recognize where we could be better, I think, as a team overall. Okay, so this is actually a funny question that I saw someone ask, and it's something we talked about when we went to a business school, and I do feel like this is something we did, but it came back on our plates after the pandemic. And it said, would you benefit from offloading tasks to other employees so that you could free up your time?
Yeah, the answer is definitely yes. And we've done it, and then we took it back, and we've done it and we've taken it back. And so, but one of the most recent things that we did is bringing back some of the old employees to be able to like have some lift off of Whit and I, and then also off of Sarah and Libby. And that has made a huge difference, I feel like, as far as being able to reshape our time and what we have time for. Because there's literally only so many hours in the day, and it's just not realistic to think that you can accomplish them all. So at some point in time, the accountant was like, you need to spend money to make money. And that was an area that made sense to, add to the payroll so that we could have essentially more windows of time in our day.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that's one of the things that's made the biggest difference
Yeah,
lately.
definitely. I mean, we shouldn't have to be doing inventory and steaming and stuff when we
Yeah.
can have somebody else be doing it, and then we can be more in content and doing lives and just being more present with our customers. I think that's maybe where our time is well spent.
Yeah. I think the hard part is that when, you know, when your sales take a huge hit, like they did with the pandemic, you scale back because you have to based off of the expenses. But the reality is that at some point in time, it takes such a huge hit on the actual forward motion of the company that you are trying to like, okay, there's only so much that the three of us can actually do in a day. And so it's not realistic to scale back so dramatically tight that now you can't do anything to move forward. You're just like treading water to keep your head above water. So I think that has been a weird, that's kind of been a weird transition for us to try to figure out like what that happy medium is of like not too much, but enough that it's giving a benefit.
Yeah, and also keeping in mind that like you're never going to get the years back with your kids. So like while we're trying to balance the business, because the business is now the sole provider for both of Whit and Tara's families, and like I feel like that's been a huge shift as well. And I feel like making sure that like being like, yes, the company is important, and of course we're providing for all of our families, but then also being like, okay, but also my kids are only little for such a small period of time. So it's like been this really weird like balancing act, I think, for all three of us, because even when I'm around your kids, I feel the same pressure, and I'm not even their mom. Like I'm like, oh, I want to make sure like I'm having intentional conversations with them and like really trying to be present and not think about what's happening with the business when I'm with them, because I don't want that to be what they remember of me. Because I remember, I don't know if Brecken was like 3 or something, and I was staying at your house when I was in town for work, and she was like, is Kate gonna be home tonight? And you said, no, she has to work. And she goes, all she ever does is stay at the office or something. Like that was her impression of me when she was little. And it really like broke my heart. Like I was like, I can't believe that's what she thinks. And so I just don't want them to ever be like, oh, all they remember of their childhood is how we like weren't around. So I feel like that's been the hardest thing, because sales weren't really as big of a pressure point as much before the pandemic. It was more about work-life balance. And now I feel like we've like mastered the work-life balance better, and we're trying to get sales back to what they once were. Like it's almost like it's flip-flopped. And so I feel like in the past 6 months, we've seen a lot of really cool like lift off and growth and connection with customers, that like it's almost like everyone, like that reel you guys posted where everyone's like coming out of their house and being like, okay, like are we allowed to come back, and like connecting with customers we haven't talked to in 2 years, that like the pandemic hit a lot of people hard. And I feel like the reason we're having this conversation is wanting to be raw about like, we never sugarcoat anything, well, first of all, but like wanting to be raw and real about like what our experience has been, and just like us trying to better ourselves and our family through like still trying to run a business through what could possibly be like the hardest thing any small business has probably walked through.
So what would you say are measures that you took to give you better work-life balance? Because we have made changes, even if we're not perfect at it.
Yeah. For me, it was just cutting out all the extra time in the evenings, and really asking myself those tough questions. Like we had that conversation at the office a couple months ago, of being like, if I go get dinner and I sit in front of my computer for the next 4 hours, like how much am I actually going to accomplish? Because it's also kind of distracting, because like your husband is around or your kids and like the TV is going. Like, would these 4 hours really, really move the needle? And if so, let me do it. Like that's how I feel on the weekends. Like if I can do something that I really feel like is going to help, like I will. But if I really feel like it's a waste of time, or I didn't prep it enough and it's not really going to like make a difference, then I feel like it's not worth wasting the time. Because I did used to feel like I would show up to Monday meetings and be like completely drained. Like I used to remember working all weekend long, and then I would wake up on Monday and everyone else is like rip raring to go and everyone's asking me questions, and I just remember being like, Monday became like my Sunday. Like I almost couldn't think straight because I felt so mentally drained and physically exhausted. So that's just not like a good place to operate out of in general. So I think that like right now we are still in a season where it's beneficial for me to work a little extra, but not nearly to the point that I did before, and recognizing like I am a better version of myself and leader if I give myself some time off. And reading was weirdly a very like helpful release for me to be able to like put my phone inside and go sit on the porch, and then like I didn't have the distraction of my phone so that I could like check out for an hour. It doesn't take me a lot to recharge also. Like I feel like some people need like a 4-hour nap. Like if I sat down for a nap, if I slept for 10 minutes, I'd be like, I'm so refreshed. Like I had these 10 power minutes and feeling really good. Like I literally did that the other day. Or like if I sat outside by myself for 30 minutes, I could be with people the rest of the night. But I'm also like the most extroverted person on the planet. So I don't need a lot of time to recharge. I just need like pockets of time, very small amounts of pockets of time by myself to feel like I'm a different person. I don't know.
What about you?
I mean, I I've been the same ever since the beginning. So it's more so if wherever I'm at, I'm present. So like if I'm at the office, I'm present at the office. I'm not thinking about the kids unless I have to. And vice versa. If I'm home, I'm with my kids, or I'm reading, or kind of allowing myself that self-care. But I think that's maybe part of my personality too, is I'm a 9 and I need to stay like emotionally stable and just kind of at a homeostasis state in order for me to be able to function. So that's kind of, I've always been that way. And I kind of know when I need to chill out, and I know when I can step it up. So,
One of the things I think that's been really good for me is the walking that we started with 75 Hard, because I don't have a lot of downtime because my kids are awake so early. So unless I'm up long before them, I just don't have a minute of the day where it's like quiet. And so that has been like probably the biggest piece of self-care for me, is to be able to just get outside for those 45 minutes and just do my walk around the block. Like whether I listen to music or a podcast or just use the time to pray, it's just time that like no one's asking me or demanding anything of me. And I have time to just like think, or not, or just like zone out and like listen to something. So that's probably been the best thing that I started doing for myself. Even though we're technically done with 75 Hard, that's the piece that I've kept up with because I've enjoyed it so much. Even on the days when it's like freezing cold or rainy or snowing, I still enjoy getting outside. So that, and then we've made it more of a priority to actually sit around the table, because like actually we had like for a while there, between the midst of like losing a baby and being pregnant and all that stuff, we literally picked up dinner like for 9 months straight, maybe even longer. It was just like every night, like, where am I picking up from? And then it was like, I would eat half of it on the way home. So by the time I got home, like they were sitting at the table, I wasn't necessarily sitting with them. And it's just like such a quick, it's just different when you're picking up food versus when you have like made something and you're sitting down. And I just remember that mom was talking about, well, this could be a whole nother podcast episode of the home experience, but just talking about the importance of the table and like having that conversation with your kids, because a lot of times that's the only time I actually get to ask them, like, what was your favorite part of the day? Like, what'd you learn at preschool? Like, what'd you have for snack? Like trying to just go through and really learn things about them. Because otherwise you could just be like running nonstop and not even get a chance to be like, oh, what did they do today? And that's usually the time that they're the most like they're not distracted, so you can actually get their have their full on attention and talk about it. And so they say that like if you make that an importance, that kids are less likely to get into drugs and be like promiscuous and all those kinds of things, because they had that time to like unwind and like unload about their day at the table, which is interesting that the statistics would say that. And so it's just been something that as the kids are getting older, that I've wanted to make a priority in our home, so that way we can, I want my kids to, especially with having girls, I want them to be able to feel like that they can be open and honest and talk to me about things. I don't want them to hide things for the fear that they're going to get in trouble. I actually have a friend that has told her kids, we were just talking about it this weekend, that they've always told their kids that even if they've done something they're not supposed to, if they at least come and tell them so that they find out about it before, like the parents find out about it before, like they're told by somebody else, that they won't get in trouble. And so their kids are really open and honest with them about stuff that you would be like, wow, I can't believe they told you that. And, but I think it's interesting that, like, I think that's cool that they can have that kind of relationship with their kids, that their kids are now, you know, older and almost out of high school, and they can still be, you know, open and honest with their parents, which a lot of high schoolers aren't, and they don't want to spend time with their families. And so that's something that's extremely important to me as my kids get older, that I want them to feel like we did with our parents, that we want to spend time with them and we want to be around them. And that if I don't have something going on Friday evening, I would just as much enjoy spending time with mom and dad as I did going out with my friends. So I hope for that for my kids.
There's also something to be said about wanting to spend just intentional time with your kids and just allowing for it instead of being distracted by your phone or by the TV, or even in my case, like reading. Like, there is time where you can sit and just give them the time to just be, you know, without anything else kind of getting in the way. And I feel like that's kind of an art form that we've kind of lost as a society, because we have so much at our fingertips, and like it's so easy to kind of scroll and like be present but like still be kind of scrolling. And so I feel like even just having the time where your attention is on them, like it makes a huge difference. You know, the kids really kind of open up and take advantage of it.
I remember hearing once that they said that if you notice your kids are kind of acting up and stuff like that, that you and your husband should sit on the couch and just have a conversation and let the kids play at your feet, because there is a sense of security that kids need and want to be able to see. So if they can see the two of you engaging, that it will make them feel more secure about their surroundings. And so anytime that you're kind of noticing that that's not happening within them, that would be something that like settles them back in, which I also think is interesting.
I was going to say this too, is when you guys were here for spring break, I told myself, if the kids ask me to do something, I'm going to say yes, no matter what they ask.
Sticks in the pile?
Sticks in the pile. And so, because I was like, so many of the times where we've been with the kids or on vacation, with the exception of Florida, because we had prepped really well for going to Florida this last year, and I felt like I was really present with family. But there's been so many times where like my computer was out, or I was wanting to talk to you guys and mom more than the kids or whatever, you know. And just because I was tired from work. And so Ever has estranged with me since like a year. She started estranging with me like 9 months to a year. And it has like broken my heart from the beginning. Well, and also the last time I was home in like February, Briggs wouldn't let me hold him. And I was like, what is happening? Like, Ever and Briggs won't let me hold them. And so when Ever was here, Briley and Britton asked me to go push them on the swings. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go push you. So I went downstairs with them. And then Whitney or Isaac was up in the screened-in patio, and Ever, I was like, do you want to come? And she was like, yeah. So I took Ever down, and I pushed the girls and pushed Ever on the little swing. And then afterwards, Ever has like her own almost like language, and she's like in her own little dream world. It's like really cute to watch. But she had started gathering sticks in the yard, and she had this routine where she would put sticks in a pile, and then she would run to the bench in the backyard by, like, mom and dad have this little sitting area in the backyard, and then she would run and find more sticks, put it in the pile, sit on the bench. And she just did that for like 45 minutes. And normally, like, in the first 10 minutes, I'd be like, okay, I'm really bored. Like, well, can we do something else? Let's go back to the swing. But I just kept following her and being like, okay, more sticks in the pile. And she kept going, sticks in the pile, sticks in the pile. And after that, she like bonded with me. And every time I was around, she'd be like, Kate, sticks in the pile. And it's like she remembered this. so funny. And she would like run to the backyard, and this was like our thing, like to put sticks in a pile, and she just loved it. And it was because like I said yes to going in the backyard with her, even though like I had attempted a lot of times at your house to play like blocks with her and get on the floor and like be with her and like be really present. But like and I remember, this is so stupid, but when we went to Chewy's 2 nights later, I sat next to Brecken and Riv, and the kids were kind of antsy because we took a long time to get our table. And so I was like, do you want to play like tic-tac-toe? And so me and Brecken and Riv played tic-tac-toe and hangman. And we got in the car, and Phil was like, it looked like you were having fun with Brecken and Riv. And I started crying talking about it. I was like, it was awesome. And I was like, and they're getting so old, it makes me almost like emotional, because you can have like a real conversation with them now because they're 7, they're almost 8, I guess. And I was just like, I just feel really lucky because we have such a special, like beautiful family. And so it was just even a good reminder for me to like I don't remember what we did in sales that day, but I will always remember sticks in a pile with Ever. You know what I mean? Like
we appreciate those sticks in a pile too, because they were good kindling for the fire.
Yeah. Well, and also she now refers to you by your name. She never did that until now. And not that you were always there with her, always giving her intentional time, but for whatever reason, the sticks in a pile really made a difference, because she now calls Kate by her name.
That's so funny. Yeah. So anyways, all that being said, like, I feel like there's been like a mental game and a mental shift. We're really trying to balance it all. And really, honestly, women are Wonder Women, because there is so much that we're tackling between running this business, being providers, you guys are moms and friends and wives, and like you're still trying to maintain your health and your marriages. Like there's just so much for us to do on a day in and day out basis. And so and I feel like the thing that I really admire when I watch small businesses is I like to see a business owner in alignment and like in control, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's so much more appealing to me than someone who looks like the business has overrun their life. And I definitely feel like I was letting that happen for a lot of years of my life. I was also in a season where it was easier because my husband was on the road a lot. And so if he was gone, I felt like, well, I'm the one who has the extra time to work. Like, why don't I just work? So it kind of became this weird, like almost like crutch, because I wanted you guys to be able to have the time to invest in your kids. And since I didn't have kids, I'm like, well, if I have the time and you can be with the kids, like that would be much more beneficial and make more sense because Phil's out of town anyways. So in some senses it just made sense, but in the other sense, like it will catch up with you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like at some point your body does like keep score, as that book says, and there will be issues if you don't like allow yourself to have some sort of balance. And I've had a lot of customers that used to like say to me, like, I hope you're getting sleep, or like, when do you ever sleep? Or like, when do you guys ever stop working? And I was like, I don't love that that's like the impression that they used to feel of us, you know, like there's like, if they're feeling that, then obviously it's evident that there wasn't a lot of good, healthy balance between the two, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think some of the, just to wrap it up, is I think that the idea is that you have to just start small, because it may not be something that you can do immediately, where you can just come home from work and just shut it off. But you do have to find something, whether it's picking up a book, taking a walk, just like go take a bath, like something where you can have a minute to like, have a break, or to spend an hour with intentional time with your kids. Because it's not bad for your kids to have independent play, right? Like you don't have to be with them every second of every day in order to have a good connection with your kids. And I think that that's where some of that mom guilt comes in, is that like, oh, well, if I wasn't fully engaged for 4 hours of the evening, then like I'm a bad mom. And the reality is that the kids really need like a consolidated amount of time. It doesn't necessarily have to be like 4 or 5 straight hours. Right. And so, so I think it's easier to do than what you think it is. It's just a matter of like starting small.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah. My last question was, have you ever missed events or like a personal thing because of work? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Lots.
I think there's been multiple times. I mean, I've had to cancel dinner with friends if we had to come in the evenings or something, or if you're just too tired to go. Like if the week has been so exhausting, like I've definitely canceled on people because I've had headaches or I'm just like exhausted or drained. And, you know, in the beginning years, it definitely took its toll for sure. Now I
Yeah.
just don't plan anything, so I have nothing to cancel, but but I do find that even on Saturdays and Sundays that like I'm like thinking I need to clean my house or get something done. I am like a sloth on the weekends. I literally want to go nowhere and do nothing. Like my butt is imprinted in the couch for like 2 straight days. Like I want to just like binge watch TV or just like sit still and do nothing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm glad you're like making time to just like chill and allow your body to like relax.
Yeah.
I watched 4 episodes of Temptation Island. I'm not sure it was the best use of my time.
Hey, we all know that you love to binge watch shows.
But I did want to see Blake. I wanted to see Tammy's son on there. So I caught up.
I know. I actually watched the first episode and with Libby, and we didn't end up seeing him. And I don't know if there was other episodes out yet, so we didn't end up watching the rest. But yeah, I agree with that. And I do feel like there's a season of where you can go, and then there's a season where you're like, okay, I need to make a change. Because I do feel like there's seasons of the business where we're like, okay, like even with this podcast, we're like, we might have to work late or like fit it in because it can't always be on a work hour basis because you're almost like starting like a new arm of the business. So there's some, and I remember even our life coach said like there's some seasons and realities where like you do need to put in the extra time, and then other seasons where it's okay to pull back and like just be okay with both seasons of knowing like this is a time where I need to do extra and this is a time where I really can rest. But yeah, I don't think like watching trash TV, like reality TV is a big deal. Like I'm just always like, if you need to watch 4 episodes of Temptation Island, you should do that. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up our entire conversation about work-life balance. As we've said before, we don't like to sugarcoat things around here. And we love to be honest, real, and genuine about our lives and what's going on. That's what this podcast is about. So we hope that you enjoyed this conversation and just kind of following along our journey of us trying to figure out what work-life balance looks like. And hopefully it was relatable and something that you can learn from and grow alongside with us too. So if you enjoyed today's podcast, we would love for you to leave a 5-star review on our Apple reviews. We also can be found on YouTube and Rumble if you like the video version of these episodes. And if you listen to it, share it on social media and help us grow this podcast and let us know what you really thought of this episode and what your favorite quote was. All right, guys, we love you. We will see you in the next episode, which is our book club, very first book club episode next week for Greenwich Park. And that concludes this episode. Have a great week. Bye.
Bye, guys.